Welcome to our RegTech and Suptech Knowledge Nugget, where we will discuss the use of Suptech and RegTech in the financial sector. In light of recent developments and disruptions and innovations taking place in the financial sector, regulators have been forced to adopt technology-based supervisory techniques in order to be able to effectively regulate in the digital era. Similarly, financial services providers have had to also leverage digital techniques to manage risks in the digital era. Awelani, within this context, can you walk us through what is Suptech and RegTech and how RegTech and Suptech is being used to drive supervision, risk management, and compliance in the financial sector?
Thanks, Kagiso. Subtech, it actually entails the use of innovative technology by a supervisory agency to support their supervising work. Subtech normally constitutes two types of use case development. That is investigative subtech as well as preventative subtech. Under investigative subtech, it actually entails the detection of regulatory non-compliance after it happens. Its activities entail misconduct analysis, data management, as well as reporting. Preventative subtech entail the continuously monitoring of those activities that can trigger or lead to regulatory non-compliance. Its activities include risk monitoring, financial crime surveillance, as well as identity management. RegTech, on the other hand, it entails the use of innovative technology by financial service providers to be able to comply better and manage risk. There are basically four main types of use cases development under RegTech. This includes regulatory compliance, financial crime surveillance, risk management, identity management, as well as regulatory reporting.
Thanks, Awelani. That was a very interesting and broad overview of what Subtech entails, as well as what RegTech entails and what some of the underlying activities are. So within that context, can you then give us some examples of what we are actually seeing around the world as it relates to both Subtech and RegTech?
Thanks, Kagiso. Yes, as we look at basically what is happening around the world, what we are seeing as it relates to Subtech is that various jurisdictions are coming with various initiatives to try and drive the adoption and the usage of Subtech tools in their area. Just to give you some few examples, in the United Kingdom, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, as well as the Bank of England, they are currently exploring the possibility of using machine-readable regulations as well as execution. When we look closer to home in Africa, the Central Bank of Rwanda, they've got what we call a data pool project, which actually enable them to sort of source data from FSPs that are under regulation using their own softwares. And then when you look in Asia, the MAS, which is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, they are currently having in place a data analytics sort of a project which they're already running. What it does, it enables them to monitor up to 3,000 transactions per month. These are basically suspicious transactions for money laundering and terrorist financing. So when we look on RegTech, on the other hand, we are also seeing the same trend whereby various jurisdictions are coming with initiatives to try and drive the adoption and usage of RegTech tools in the financial sector. Just to provide you with practical examples, when you look in Australia, the federal government has provided funding to the Australian Security and Investment Commission to promote Australia as a global leader in RegTech and also to come up with various RegTech initiatives. When you look in Asia, the Monetary Authority of Hong Kong have come up with various initiatives to try and drive the adoption and using of RegTech in that country, especially focusing on the banking sector in that country. When you look in the Middle East, you've got the Federal Bank of Abu Dhabi, whereby they've just come with this KYC solution, making or taking advantage of the blockchain technology that is available at the moment.
Thanks, Awalana. There's some interesting use cases that we're seeing globally by supervisors in the subtech space, and then also by banks and financial services providers in driving compliance and managing risks. In your research, I know that you also conducted interviews with local regulators and also some of the banks and insurers. What were some of your key findings?
Thanks, Keki. So yes, indeed, we conducted a research domestically, and there were some very interesting observations that came out of it. For example, with Suptech, the overall picture that we sort of got is that the use of Suptech tools in South Africa is still in the nascent stage, meaning that there's still a room for growth and sort of maturity. And then in that research, we also found that there are actually some key benefits as well as some key challenges as far as it pertains to the adoption and usage of the Suptech tools. Some of the key benefits that I can just highlight, for example, we are finding that Suptech actually it leads to better consumer outcome, meaning that there is better consumer protections. It leads to a huge size of financial sector to be under sort of supervision, and then it also sort of enhance the supervision capability of regulators, because now a task that would have taken you many people to do, you can just use technology and do it more efficiently and effectively. What we are also seeing is that Suptech is also enable a supervisor to cut on cost, mainly on the fact that now you don't need to hire a lot of people to do some tasks. You can just use technology and few people, and also automate some of the manual processes that way, actually requiring a lot of people to do it. So those are some of the benefits that we managed to identify. However, over and above that, we also see that there are also some challenges with regard to the adoption of Suptech technologies in South Africa. Some of the challenges that I can highlight is the issue of budgetary constraints, whereby some regulators indicate to us that there is a lack of funding for them to invest in these tools. There is a challenge also when it comes to issue of quality of data, especially when you have to use an unstructured data that's the data that you normally cannot store on your rows and the columns. There's also a challenge also of skills, whereby some supervisors indicate to us that people who possess knowledge and skills of these tools, they are actually hard to come by, and even when you find them, they are very expensive. There is also a challenge of what I can call the cost of some of these technologies is actually very high. So those were some of the key highlights that I can highlight as far as Suptech is concerned. When we go to Regtech, I would say the picture was more or less the same. We found that the use of Regtech tools by most of FSPs in South Africa is still in the nascent stage. There is still much room for growth and development. And the interesting thing is that most of these FSPs indicated to us that they've got strategies and plan in place to try and push or accelerate the adoptions of those tools. So some of the key benefits that we've managed to find out from the study included the fact that it was obvious, or it was key from the survey that we conducted, that Regtech lead to more efficient compliance. It enabled these organizations to comply better. Regtech enables them to cut compliance cost, because now they are able to automate a lot of activities and sort of get rid of a lot of manual activities that they're doing. We also found that some of these Regtech tools, they are offered in tools that are actually very cheaper. For example, some of them are being offered from the cloud, which is basically very cheap, and most of FSPs are able to leverage on that. We also found that the use of Regtech, it also leads to end-to-end data management. So now organizations are able to report and to possess more granular data. That is in the aspect of benefits. However, we also found that there are also some key challenges, as similarly to the previous case of Suptech. So some of the key challenges that we identify is that some of these RegTech tools, they actually don't scale through various departments of organization. You find that the tool is only specific for compliance, and then you can't scale and use it in other departments, which is a problem for FSPs that are profit driven. We also found that some of this technology is still new and it's also very expensive. So meaning some of these FSPs still need to develop confidence on these technologies. We also found that skills also are also not easy to come by. And if you find people who can do the work, they are also expensive. So we as another challenge, what we also found as far as RegTech is concerned, is that some of these organizations that are deploying these RegTech tools, they are startup and upcoming, and there's a lack of trust amongst FSPs to bring them in board because they are not sure about their sustainability. So in the nutshell, so these were some of the key highlights that we managed to deduct from the study.
All right. Thanks for that, Awelane. That really gives us a very interesting perspective around what's taking place on RegTech and Suptech, and what your key findings were in this particular space. It is very evident that the use of these technologies are growing to drive supervision, compliance, and risk management. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on our RegTech and Suptech Knowledge Nugget. And certainly as our work evolves on this topic, we look forward to engaging with you. Goodbye.